Since the 2003 invasion of Iraq, a network of Shiite paramilitary organizations have emerged within the territory. These organizations have evolved from basic guerrilla units staging IED and rocket attacks into potent political forces in their own right. Militias now hold the capability of shaping the Iraqi state by both the ballot and the bullet. This episode will examine the origins, structures, and ideological foundations of these groups, as well as their operational history since 2003. We will primarily focus on the following groups: the Mahdi Army, Kataib Hezbollah, Asaib al-Haq, and Kataib Sayyid al-Shuhada. We will be going over these organizations both as individual actors and as part of a greater Shiite network organized and funded by the Iranian state. The 2003 invasion of Iraq by the US fundamentally restructured the Middle East. Saddam Hussein's Ba'athist government was rapidly dismantled, producing a power vacuum in the region. Seeing this as an opportunity, the Iranian government to Iraq's east would spend the next 2 decades attempting to fill this vacuum. Within weeks of the fall of Baghdad, Iranian intelligence and military assets began organizing, funding, and directing Iraqi Shiite paramilitary groups. Leading the operation was the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the extraterritorial and intelligence arm of the Iranian state. The militia groups that had formed were not exclusively military in nature. Some engaged in community charity and welfare provisions as well in the wake of the invasion. Independent militias also began administering their own law and security enforcement. These paramilitaries would resist U.S. forces, primarily through asymmetric warfare. You may be wondering why the paramilitaries resisted U.S. forces who had ostensibly come to free them from Ba'athist tyranny. Though the Saddam regime had oppressed the Shiite people of Iraq for some time, the U.S. invasion was not viewed favorably. In fact, having foreign troops occupy their country was seen as repugnant by locals. The U.S. brought untold misery to Iraq. Secret detention, abuses, torture, and cruel treatment were endured by Iraqi civilians. Despite their abuses, the U.S. military naively expected a warm welcome by Iraqis, but instead of warmth, the U.S. troops were met with hostility, thus giving rise to the local militias we see today. You see, not every paramilitary was the full creation of Iranian intelligence agencies. Many organizations had emerged organically from Shia communities in and around Baghdad, many of whom had opposed Saddam's regime prior to the U.S. invasion. This is especially true of Mahdi Army, a Shia organization led by Muqtada al-Sadr. Only through time and careful cultivation by the IRGC would these independent militias become components of the larger Iranian grand strategy in the region. They would evolve into the modern axis of resistance that we see today, led by Iran. The Axis of Resistance is a transnational network of proxy forces aimed at challenging Western hegemony in the region. Shia paramilitaries in Iraq are a key component of the Axis. Some, like Kataib Hezbollah, are so integrated into Iranian functions that they have almost become a complete extension of the IRGC. These paramilitaries and the rest of the Axis fulfill the goals of the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Iran has long since sought to project influence across the Middle East by sponsoring proxy forces that share its Islamist, anti-imperialist orientation. This orientation placed Iran as the leading edge of an anti-American, anti-Israeli cohort, including Lebanon's Hezbollah, Yemen's Houthis, and Palestine's Hamas. Lebanese Hezbollah, established in the early 1980s, has served as Iran's ideal template for a regional actor. It's a heavily armed, non-state actor capable of challenging a far superior conventional military force in the form of Israel, all while building popular legitimacy through public works and social services. Iraq offered Iran a prime location to test this model, this time in close proximity to the American superpower. To facilitate this influence, Iran deployed the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Quds Force, a specialized branch of the IRGC responsible for extraterritorial operations and intelligence. This organization was commanded by Major General Qassem Soleimani from 1998 until his death in a U.S. airstrike in January of 2020. Under his tutelage, the Quds Force provided Iraqi militias with training and weapons, including sophisticated EFPs or explosively formed penetrators. These devices were capable of piercing American armored vehicles and served a key function in the asymmetric warfare waged in Iraq. In his address to the United States Congress on September 11, 2007, General David Petraeus, then commanding officer of the U.S. forces in Iraq, stated outright that the Quds Force had given training, equipment, funding, and operational guidance to Shiite militant groups operating against coalition forces. Iraq had become, in effect, a laboratory for Iranian asymmetric warfare. Weapon systems, organizational technologies, and tactics were put to the test against the U.S. occupying forces in Iraq. There, they could be evaluated at a relatively low direct cost to Tehran. The first and most publicly visible of the major Iraqi Shiite militias to emerge after the invasion was the Jaish al-Mahdi, commonly known in English as the Mahdi Army. It was founded by Muqtada al-Sadr in June 2003, beginning as a force of roughly 500 seminary students drawn from the impoverished Shiite district of Baghdad known as Sadr City, formerly known as Saddam City. Sadr City was named in honor of Muqtada's late father, Grand Ayatollah Muhammad al-Sadr. Filling the security vacuum left by the collapse of the Ba'athist state, Sadr's organization began initially by distributing humanitarian aid and providing basic security to Shia communities in Baghdad, where lawlessness and looting had taken place following de-Baathification. The Mahdi army rapidly grew into a paramilitary force of up to 10,000 fighters, operating what observers described as a shadow government across significant portions of southern Iraq and Baghdad. Because of its grassroots nature, the Mahdi army's relationship with Iran was less straightforward than a traditional client-patron relationship. Muqtada al-Sadr acted as both a Shia cleric and a staunch Iraqi nationalist, sometimes resisting IRGC meddling in Iraqi affairs to pursue those ends. His nationalist orientation can be traced back to his early years. During the Saddam regime, al-Sadr remained in Iraq, a fact that distinguished him from other contemporary Shia clergy and leadership, many of whom had fled to Iran. Those who fled to Iran tend to have closer ties to the Iranian state and the IRGC. Al-Sadr was willing to accept Iranian material support on occasion, and in 2006 he pledged military assistance to Iran should it be attacked by the United States. Simultaneously, he resisted Iranian political and clerical meddling in the region and maintained an independent leadership and strategic mindset. Iran recognized this limitation and would eventually cultivate a more reliable alternative to project its influence. Still, the Mahdi army's military record became substantial. It became the first Shia group to engage in an armed confrontation with the US forces, doing so in April of 2004. The organization's battle followed the American closure of al-Sadr's newspaper Al-Hawza and the attempted arrest of his senior aide. After an especially heated speech given by al-Sadr, fighting erupted across the Shiite regions of Baghdad. Fighting erupted across Najaf, Kufa, Kut, Karbala, and Sadr City, resulting in heavy casualties on both sides. A ceasefire was brokered in June of 2004, and American military commanders declared the paramilitary defeated, with estimated deaths of between 1,500 and 2,000 Shiite fighters. Nevertheless, the Mahdi army reconstituted itself and continued fighting throughout the late 2000s. This ended in 2008, when a major Iraqi government crackdown, combined with American military force, pressured al-Sadr into announcing another ceasefire before formally dissolving the Mahdi army altogether. Al-Sadr subsequently pivoted towards political participation in the new Iraqi parliament. This civilian streak would not last. When ISIS emerged in 2014, Sadr reconstituted a successor force in the region to confront Daesh's influence. This organization, known as the Peace Companies, was made to defend Shia shrines against Islamic State attacks, though remains functionally as a rebrand of the original Mahdi army. The Mahdi army's independence continually frustrated Iranian strategic planners. Iran shifted focus to a new paramilitary that would be more loyal to Tehran. This group would be Kataib Hezbollah, or KH, the Battalions of the Party of God. Kataib Hezbollah was established in 2007 by Jamal Jafar al-Ibrahim, known by his nom de guerre, Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis. He was an Iraqi-Iranian dual national who fled to Iran during the Iran-Iraq War, creating deep ties to the IRGC Quds Force. Al-Muhandis formed Kataib at Soleimani's personal encouragement, drawing initial membership from disaffected members of the Mahdi army, who preferred continued direct confrontation with coalition forces, as well as a closer alignment with Tehran. KH quickly distinguished itself from the Mahdi army through the sophistication of its attacks, as well as its close coordination with the Iranian state. Between 2007 and 2011, Kataib Hezbollah was responsible for numerous lethal attacks on U.S. forces. They deployed EFPs as well as improvised rocket-assisted mortars, or lob bombs. The United States designated KH and al-Muhandis as terrorists in 2009. Following the U.S. withdrawal from Iraq in 2011, Muhandis integrated KH into a wider network of militias, eventually becoming a central figure in the Popular Mobilization Forces as of 2014. He was killed alongside Soleimani in January 2020 U.S. airstrike on Baghdad International Airport. The leadership mantle then passed to Ahmed Mohsen Farah al-Hamidawi, a former commander of KH Special Operations, who has maintained the group's trajectory to the present day. KH is currently considered the most powerful single militia operating in Iraq. KH has been implicated in human rights violations, including the abduction and extrajudicial killing of Sunni civilians. Researchers Michael Weiss and Michael Pregent documented accusations against KH during their campaigns against ISIS. KH allegedly kidnapped 1,500 Sunni men and boys from the town of Jerf as-Sakhar, of whom 643 remain unaccounted for. The group has also been accused of operating secret detention facilities, targeting political opponents of Tehran, as well as being involved in the 2020 murder of Iraqi scholar Hisham al-Hashemi. Another Iranian-aligned militia in the region was Asaib al-Haq, meaning League of the Righteous. It was also referred to as Qasali Network, and it combined sustained paramilitary efforts with a significant participation in formal Iraqi politics. Asaib was formed in 2006 by Qais al-Qasali and Akram al-Ka'abi, following a split from the Mahdi army. The split was due to the 2004 ceasefire, and Qais vowed to continue militant struggle. AAH was funded, founded, and trained by the IRGC and Lebanon's Hezbollah. The organization claimed responsibility for more than 6,000 attacks against US and other invasion forces between 2006 and 2011, making it one of the most prolific militias at the time. AAH's tactics included roadside IEDs, sniper operations, RPG assaults, and the targeted kidnapping of foreign nationals. In 2019, as mass protests erupted in Iraq against Iranian interference in the country, AAH militiamen fired on demonstrators in Basra in support of Tehran. AAH has a political wing called Al Sadikun, the Honest Ones, which won their first seat in the Iraqi parliament in 2014. The group subsequently joined the Fatah Alliance for the 2018 elections, gaining significantly expanded parliamentary representation. Ghazali continues to serve as the group's Secretary General, overseeing both its military capabilities and its close relationship with the IRGC Quds Force, while maintaining a degree of political legitimacy within the Iraqi system. AAH as an organization maintains a balance between Iranian and Iraqi loyalties, rather than the near total Iranian subordination shown by Kataib Hezbollah. Kataib Sayyid al-Shuhada, or KSS, the Battalions of the Masters of Martyrs, represents a fourth major Iraqi militia. Established in 2013 by Abu Mustafa al-Shaibani, a former associate of Kataib Hezbollah, KSS was initially mobilized to protect Shiite shrines. The group patrols territory both in Iraq and abroad, and fought in Syria to protect the regime of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, a key Iranian ally at the time. KSS holds a particular interest in the Sayyida Zainab Mosque in southern Damascus, which holds a deep religious significance to Shiite practitioners. Like other groups in the region, KSS was funded, trained, and equipped by the IRGC-QF and Lebanese Hezbollah. When ISIS was ascendant in Iraq, KSS shifted its operational focus to Iraqi territory, formally joining the Popular Mobilization Forces in 2014 and operating as the PMF's 14th Brigade. KSS has also developed a political ring called Munisurun, which maintains a presence in the Iraqi parliament. It also owns a private company in the form of Muhandis General Company, a construction firm modeled on the IRGC's own engineering enterprise, Khatam al-Anbiya. This business serves as a secondary source of funding for the group and a means to develop more legitimate operations within the Iraqi economy. In 2023, the United States designated KSS and its leader, Hashim Finyan al-Siraji, as specially designated global terrorists. Eventually, these Shiite militias would become institutionalized, with the emergence of ISIS in 2014 acting as a catalyst. After ISIS seized Mosul, as well as large swaths of northern and western Iraq, Shiite shrines came under threat. It then began to advance towards Baghdad. In response, Grand Ayatollah Ali al-Sistani issued a fatwa calling on all able-bodied Iraqis to take up arms in defense of the country. The Iraqi government formalized the resulting volunteer forces into the Popular Mobilization Forces, or PMF. The PMF is an umbrella organization that incorporates pre-existing Iranian-backed militias into the state of Iraq, and it ultimately comprised of 67 armed factions, of which the overwhelming majority were Shiite militias, maintaining loyalty to Iran's supreme leader rather than the Iraqi government. This misalignment of loyalties created persistent tensions within the Iraqi state, but the PMF played a key role in defeating ISIS, participating in nearly every major military operation against the Islamic State between 2014 and 2019. However, the PMF also pursued goals that contradicted the Iraqi state's interests. Constituent militias were known to abduct Iraqi civilians, suppressing domestic protest movements, and continued support for Iranian strategic objectives. A PMF reform bill introduced in 2025 aimed to subordinate the organization to the authority of the Iraqi Prime Minister and the state to bring it under control. Whether such reforms can succeed is in doubt, especially considering the current Iranian-American war. 6 broad operational phases can be identified in the development of Iraqi Shiite militias since 2003. The first phase, which occurred from 2003 to 2007, involved early post-invasion engagements with U.S. occupation forces, in which the Mahdi army played the leading role. The second phase, from 2007 to 2011, saw more sophisticated Iranian-directed efforts to completely expel the Americans. These were led increasingly by Kataib Hezbollah and AAH. The third phase, from 2012 to 2014, involved the deployment of Iraqi militias to Syria in support of Assad. The fourth phase, from 2014 to 2019, was dominated by the PMF campaigns against ISIS. The fifth phase, from 2019 to 2023, involved consolidating Iraqi proxies within the axis of resistance and renewed pressure on residual U.S. forces in the region. The sixth and current phase, beginning with Hamas's Al Aqsa flood on October 7th, has seen a reorientation of militia activities towards the targeting of Israel. Militia strikes on U.S. forces have continued in recent times. In January of 2024, a drone strike killed 3 U.S. service members at Tower 22 in Jordan. This attack was claimed by Kataib Hezbollah. This shows a continued capability by Iraqi militias to project force beyond Iraq's borders. Iraqi Shia militias represent a key player in the Levant. By exploiting the power vacuum created by the U.S. invasion, Iran constructed a network of regional allies. As the United States' war with Iran continues to escalate, the importance of these regional militias will only grow.